Usually spiral patterns mark characters' cheeks in Japanese comedy cartoons, representing an effect of warmth. However, I thought it could be used in a horror if I drew it a different way.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed.
The only time you should ever pay that much money for something with interchangeable heads, it should be going in your ass.
Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. Follow Daniel at DStarSick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Damio on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 66 of The Horror of Babylon, where we are reviewing Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And Hef is here too.
How y'all doing? Good to be here.
And we want to say thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mama of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron. Oh, that sounds better with three.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah. And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming. You can visit them at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, or at the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and say hello to the proprietor and chief gremlin, Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas.
We got a few trigger warnings. We got a body horror. We have violence. Child mortality.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I have pictures of Ryan's face whenever he got to those parts.
Yep.
And cannibalism? Question mark?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess technically. I would consider it cannibalism.
Yeah.
I could see like being in the situation and rationalizing it so it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been in a situation where I had to eat another person to live. So who am I to judge?
Exactly.
Okay, so our history with Uzumaki. I had never read it till recently. Until this podcast, my only experience with Junji Ito was Gyo and the two accompanying stories in Gyo, which I had read several times and had been familiar with since high school. But because of this podcast, I'm finally reading other Junji Ito works. And I got to tell you, Frankenstein was a little disappointing. And I was a little hesitant to read this because it's so widely loved and beholden as like a ultimate like manga horror classic. So I was kind of hesitant. I was like, oh, what if I don't like it? And no, it's amazing.
I remember you turned to me when you finished it and went, I want to be a contrarian, but I loved this.
Yeah. Daniel, your history with Uzumaki?
I follow God, at the time it was probably like a dozen YouTube horror channels. Now it's like 50. And almost all of them had covered Uzumaki at some point. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to watch this video because I haven't read it yet. So I went and I bought the book and I read it, and then I went and watched all the videos.
Uzumaki, actually, I bought in 3 separate volumes back when like Viz was still doing their like editor's choice stuff. Like they had like an editor's choice run.
It just made them so much more expensive.
That's all they did. Like because like they were like $8 regularly, but if they had like the Singer series editor's choice ones, they were like 10.
Yeah, I think they were 12.
Like, Maison Ikoku was one of them because I remember having to pay more to get those. But I bought them when they were under that line. My history with it was I just basically bought all 3 in the same day and read them in a weekend. Didn't appreciate it really back when I read it years and years ago. Read it again for the podcast. Much better, especially since we dived a little bit into Lovecraft.
Yeah,
I think that helped a lot.
I think that I wouldn't have liked it as much in high school. I think it's better. I read it when I was older. It's funny because we've had a couple conversations about seeing movies too late in life and not liking them as much. And now I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't read this earlier.
I was lucky enough to still have the books.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background. So we've covered Junji Ito several times. If you want to go back into our archives, we have an episode on the Gyo manga, the Gyo anime, an episode on the Enigma of Amagara Fault and the Sad Tale of the Principal Post, and an episode on his version of Frankenstein.
God, we have covered him a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, we've done him a lot. We're going to do at least Tomie eventually too, but I think we should wait a while.
I think that's like we'll do him like once a year. That'll be our next year one.
I read Frankenstein outside of the podcast. It was quite amusing.
Yeah, it's good. It just wasn't like what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
It's probably between him and Kazuo Umezu for like the two like most iconic horror manga artists.
Yeah.
He's won 2 Eisner Awards, which is a huge deal. The Eisner Award is the most prestigious award in comics, but very few manga artists have ever won it. It's unfortunate more manga artists haven't been honored with that because there's so many of them that deserve to be recognized.
This is a quote from Junji Ito about Uzumaki. Usually spiral patterns mark characters' cheeks in Japanese comedy cartoons, representing an effect of warmth. However, I thought it could be used in a horror if I drew it in a different way.
And if you've never read this, it's a scary story about spirals.
Yeah. That's it.
The premise sounds so dumb.
And it is. Like, in a vacuum. And maybe that's, part of the reason why I never jumped to it, never read it super fast. But
I honestly think that's like the majority of Junji Ito's like original works is he takes a stupid idea and sees how scary he can make it, like
walking fish.
Walking fish. Yeah, that's how.
Well, isn't like his original idea was like a killer gas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, how do I make fart gas scary?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for like the day he's just like candle wick. That's scary.
It's coming.
And I know how to do it.
What's Kindle Wick?
Like a candle wick.
Oh, a Kindle Wick.
Yeah, like a wick in a candle.
I was thinking like a Kindle, like an e-reader. I was like, if you're an employee of a paper company,
that's scary as fuck if you're it's scary as fuck if you're a passenger in an airplane.
Oh yeah,
that's the only thing you have to help you guide the plane down, trying to actually like land it if both pilots are dead.
Terrifying. Okay, so Uzumaki itself is a seinen manga, and if you're not familiar with Japanese manga demographics, that means older. It's intended for older male audiences. Obviously, doesn't mean that women don't enjoy seinen manga. I myself am a big fan of shoujo and some josei manga, so it's just like a publishing demographic.
What's josei?
Josei is the female equivalent of seinen.
Oh, older female. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Kohei is like young audiences. Shonen is boy. Shoujo is girl. Seinen is men. Josei is women.
Ooh. Okay.
Josei is definitely the one that I've read the least of, but I have read some good ones.
Same.
Yeah. Example, Bunny Drop or Usagi Drop. Really, really high quality Josei manga. Uzumaki was published in Big Comic Spirits from 1998 to 1999, and it was compiled into 3 trade paperback volumes by the Japanese publishing superhouse Shogakukan. It was published as the trades from August of 98 to September of 1999. In North America, Viz released an English-language translation of the series in the monthly magazine Pulp from February of 2001 to August of 2002, and then released its own trades in 2001. A published hardcover omnibus version was released in 2013, that's the one that you can find on shelves today. It has been reprinted for years.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, I'm going to get it eventually. Uzumaki was nominated for an Eisner Award, but in the category of Best U.S. Edition of a Foreign Material, which is awkward. And the Young Adult Library Services Association chose the first volume for its top 10 best graphic novels for teens in 2009. People, I think we've grown past the term graphic novel. We don't have to pretend anymore. They're comics.
Yeah, they're comics.
We can just call them comics.
We can call them all comics. I don't even call manga anymore. I just call it comics.
I mean, it's Japanese comics.
Yeah.
And whatever.
I'm still hung up on best U.S. What's that? Best U.S. edition of a foreign material. That to me is just like saying, like, you know how we had chopsticks? Well, we like forks better. Like, that's what that says to
There's
me.
a category for non-United States that was translated into English and released in the United States. I don't know why.
It seems like a weird category, but
It is.
There might be a reason that we just are too uncultured to understand.
I listen to this podcast every day, or most days, called Today in History Class. And recently it did the first Grammy Award for a rap and hip-hop song, which went to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. But at the time, they had like 60-plus awards, and they don't televise the announcement of the winners for every single award. And that year, that was the first year they introduced categories for bluegrass, metal, and rap and hip hop.
Okay.
And all three of those they chose to award off air. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, aka
Will Smith,
decided to boycott the Grammys that year and got all of the other people in the bluegrass and the metal categories to do it as well. And I loved it because the guy who does this podcast has this huge sense of humor, and he ended the podcast by saying, "And Will Smith never had award show controversy ever again."
Okay, that's it. We'll give that guy a W. I'm gonna start listening to this, dude. What's the name of this? I'm gonna start listening to this podcast. I'm gonna add it to my podcast repertoire, which is like 2 things right now.
I was gonna say, how many do you got?
This Day in History Class.
Wait, does Joe Rogan count? 3 podcasts.
I mean, I've never listened to
Isn't
it.
it just exclusively what he does?
Yeah.
So it's just him like ranting for like all day.
Yeah, I think it's freaking hilarious, but like in this strange sort of what's going on way.
I feel like Joe Rogan lives his entire existential life in his mind of what the fuck is going on. I have microphone. Rah!
I just like listening to him talk about the Liver King.
I imagine he just
The Tiger King?
Liver King.
What I imagine with Joe Rogan is a person who has multiple personality disorder, but
Yeah.
every single one of them are Joe Rogan.
Normally, when talking about anything but the topic, that means we hate it. I swear to you, we all love Uzumaki. Which is,
we kind of went on tangents.
yeah. There is a live-action adaptation from 2000, Uzumaki or Spiral, which we will be covering later. But we should mention there is an upcoming anime adaptation for Adult Swim, which has been
Delayed so
Delayed.
many times.
which I'm happy about because I want it to be good. But, I'm not happy about because I want to see it.
I'm going to be pushing for our podcast to do like a nightly watch and review when it drops.
I'm fine with that.
There'll be shorter episodes, but they'll be like, hey, we just watched episode 1. Here's our thoughts.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
It better be better than the Big O 2.
Everything is better than the second season of Big O.
It is, though.
Yeah, there's very few things that I would rate lower than the Big O season 2.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Structure and themes. This has sort of a unique structure to it. The way that I kind of thought about it when I was reading it for the first time is the first half of the book is Star Trek the Original Series, and the second half of the book is Star Trek the Next Generation. So the first half is like very episodic, and it's just all these random like spooky things involving spirals that happen in this small town.
They make you think that they are all these isolated stories that really don't got anything to do with each other.
And you could almost read like the first so many chapters in any order and it would hardly matter.
Yeah.
And then it starts building.
And then all of a sudden it matters.
Yeah, it starts building continuity, about halfway through it, and you have to read the latter half in order.
They spin into each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like a spiral. What are your thoughts on the structure?
I like it. It's weird. All these people that I watch almost always criticize the structure. All of them seem to hate whenever the story starts to, like, coalesce into each other. Like, oh, it works better as a bunch of short stories. Or their criticism is, it feels like he was running out of ideas for spirals and he started to have to make stuff up. And I'm sitting there like, but the whole story is the spirals cursing things and forcing them to be spirals. I'm like, it's not that mosquitoes literally fly in little circles, that the spiral curse is causing that to happen.
I like both aspects of the story.
Yeah.
If you put a gun to my head and made me choose, I guess I do like the more episodic first half of it more, but I would never take that position.
Yeah, if you gun to my head, I like the episodic stuff more because I like Kyrie and like watching her do like her little, man, I'm not fazed by this, even though this is like the 5th time this has happened.
And it will never leave.
I think the biggest reason that, like, I like the way it's set up, but I also think that, like, the reason that I like the way it's set up is the same reason that most people like the way it's set up, because this manga is fairly universally acclaimed. It's much more United States than I think people really think about it as being. The reason I say that is because think about most dramas you watch. The first seasons of dramas, like whenever they're first starting out, are usually kind of those monster of the week kind of episodes.
Yeah.
You start with each episode being like kind of its own episodic little thing just to kind of give the audience a taste while the season slowly builds up into an overarching coalescing story. A lot of police procedural dramas are like that. Like, you have these episodic things, but then over the season, it becomes more of a core... There's a core story there. It's just interwoven with all the rest of the stuff.
It's supernatural.
For the most part. I mean, Supernatural's a really good example because it does do that. Like, there is a monster of the week thing, but, like, each season still does kind of have an overarching story. That's a much more appealing to an American audience because of just the nature of what we're kind of exposed to. I don't believe he did set that up to be that way in any way, shape, or form.
What you're saying makes sense.
But I think that's one of the reasons.
Probably helped its popularity.
I think it's why it's renowned as it is because it gives you that taste going in, and then those invested readers that get to Volume 2, that's when you start really pulling into the whole mystery.
All right, themes.
Spirals. The shape is a theme.
It's pervasive in the artwork. It's pervasive in the storytelling.
He's also flat out said, I wanted to write a story about spirals. Literally the shape.
Yeah.
So.
Can you imagine, like, him just sitting there being like, I just imagine Junji Ito, like, sitting in his office and be like, what if it wasn't a spiral? But he's just like, circle, infinity, square, awkward infinity. That's just what I imagine him doing to himself in his office.
For me, I always pictured him like stirring up a cup of noodles, and then he sees it all like spiraling together.
I believe he would be like one of the few like people in creative works that like he just gets random ideas about shit.
Well, the Uzumakis are the little fish cakes with the spirals on it and ramen.
So like he's like just looking down at it and he goes, "Wait a minute."
That's why I made the candle.
What if I made that a person?
That's why I make the candle wick joke. He's like just it's almost that Family Guy skit wherever like Stephen King has like here's a lamp.
Okay, for my 307th book, this couple is attacked by a lamp monster. Ooh.
You're not even trying anymore, are you? When can I have it?
Stephen King's another one of those. I think that's what the two of these guys have in common is they can just take an idea and roll with it.
Yeah, I believe that.
A zombie apocalypse caused by cell phones. Give it to Steve. He'll do it. He did it.
And he'll do it for 600 pages.
Jaws, but a dog.
Yep, he did it. Cooch.
Clown, but it shapeshifts.
Yeah, which is very similar to this story. Cycles, repetition, patterns, both in terms of the art, in terms of the story, in terms of the themes.
And I have every time I try to find the source on this, I always have such a hard time about how Japanese media tells their stories about time being literally cyclical. It's something that happens in Bloodborne, really happens in a bunch of RPGs where they kind of insinuate this always happens again and again and again because everything just spins back around in on itself. Literally in the story.
The cycle of spirals attacking the town, destroying the town gets rebuilt, and then after so many years it happens again.
Yeah, and then they talk about how they exist in an eternal moment. And that's how, spoilers, nobody makes it out of here alive.
Well, we don't really know what happened.
Alive being the questioning word.
They don't make it out normal, but they talk about how they're now in this eternal moment, and that's how they're still able to tell us this story. Even though, like, usually, like, when you have, like, a first-person narrative, like, perspective, it's because a person got away and they can tell you the story. Well, it doesn't happen here.
That's the beauty of the tale, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think, is, like, you know, it starts out with it's almost a whirlpool. Like, it starts out with just this little ebb of two currents that don't quite mesh up, and then they just create a spiral, and the spiral gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it eventually encompasses the entire story. And it's not only cyclical, but it's also a form of completion for the actual reader themselves.
All right, nihilism, the desperate struggle against inevitability.
I think I played that guy in Street Fighter. Oh, it's Dulcie. I'm sorry.
Dulcie. Most of Junji Ito's work, I always feel, has like a huge nihilistic perspective for such a dude who seems so jolly.
His favorite band is the Beatles.
He seems like such a fun dude, but all of his work is like, yeah, everybody's gonna die, and there's not shit you can do about it.
And he's listening to the Beach Boys and the Bee Gees while he's doing this.
Putting on his little cat ears, doing that little meow thing.
I imagine him just making his works and listening to Tragedy by the Bee Gees. Tragedy!
That was very scary.
Ooh, that was... And then body horror is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can have a Junji Ito book without body horror.
This is one of the few ones that actually weirds me out.
Yeah.
Like, the art is just so shocking.
I can do spirals myself. Look at my tongue. I saw that dead. I'm like, what'd that tongue do? I don't know why Kyrie is running. That's like a dream, man.
Yep. That's what women want. Lizard tongue.
Can confirm.
Yeah, that's what Mel Gibson told us. Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt.
That's a reference. Holy shit.
It's part of the cycle.
No, it isn't.
Watching what women want.
We will always circle back to
How
Mel
many
Gibson.
times have you watched that movie?
Twice.
Twice that you know of? Or like twice?
I'm definitively twice.
Okay, definitively twice.
Once as a kid, once as an adult.
You also saw that when you were a kid?
My dad took me to see that in
My
theaters.
mom also took me to see this movie. Why were we going to see that movie?
I don't think there was anything else out at that time.
That was not a movie that we should have gone to see at that age.
Nope. I'm pretty sure...
Do you and I have a shared memory? So, is this a part of the spiral?
Is this your guys' Bram Stoker's Dracula and parents' poor decisions? Because I don't know what you're
it's
talking
not.
about.
It's not nearly as...
No.
It's not an appropriate movie for a 10-year-old kid, but it's not nearly as bad as Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's go to characters, and we're not going to be here super long. We have a couple of really important ones, and then something that's a little more abstract, but I agree. All right, so Daniel, talk to us about our girl Kyrie.
She is a huge waifu material, and I'm so surprised there's not more like fan art of her. I love the way Junji Ito draws women. I wrote down in my notes here that she's very nonplussed by events. It seems like every time something happens, she's like, okay, and then it freaks her
That's a
out.
little weird.
And then she like resets at the beginning of each story.
Yep. Huh, that was weird.
Like
I wonder
her
what happened
boyfriend's
tomorrow.
literally telling her what's going on, and she's like, nah. Oh, that spiral thing was spooky. I just found it funny.
Most upset she get is when it fucks with her hair.
Yeah, the hair chapter. I love the hair chapter. Medusa.
Yeah, the Medusa.
Yeah. There's this one reviewer I watched that theorized that she remains unaffected by the curse because of her positivity and kindness. Yeah, she's the only person who keeps an upbeat attitude, and it's only when she gives up at the end that she turns into a spiral.
I could see that being intentional.
I thought it was just a fun fan theory, so I included it.
Yeah, that's cool.
What are your guys' thoughts on Kyrie?
I love and abhor.
Yeah.
I hate to just focus on her looks, but she is so adorable.
She is that figure will be mine.
Yeah, I could eat her with a spoon. But I also agree that supremely amused by how nonplussed she is. But then I am so frustrated that she will not listen to Suichi and leave. Like, get your brother, go with your boyfriend, and fucking leave.
He literally explained to you what's happening. You have like two examples. After maybe the first example is a coincidence. But after number 2...
I probably would have given it 2.
Yeah.
But I would not be sticking around for a third spooky thing to happen.
Yeah. After his mom kills herself because she's freaked out by spirals, I'll be like, hey, let's at least get my boyfriend out of this town.
Yeah.
Let's go on a vacation to a city.
Yeah, let's move to Tokyo. I'd move to Kyoto myself, but I don't know. Hef.
I don't have a whole lot of uncurious. She is drawn very pretty.
Yeah.
But as far as anything, like, I'm the same page as you guys. Like, I think she was just kind of...
Junji Ito's characters aren't known for being deep.
No, I mean, I understand their set pieces.
Yeah.
Like, she's basically just the centralized figure to witness all the dumb shit that's happening
that Junji Ito wants to draw. He's like, I need someone to look at this.
Yeah. See, my hot theory about Kyrie's character is she's not actually a character born into the town. She's actually the central point. She is the center of the spiral.
Oh, that's your theory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because and that, to me, that's why she's not affected by anything. It's because she's causing it.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's
next time on Horror Theory.
I don't know if I'm sure that's not the reading the book was trying to go for, but to me that's kind of how it seemed.
Yeah,
because she's just so non-fazed by everything.
I just think she internalizes her pain.
I mean, maybe she's just deeper than that, but I found her to be like, everything happens around her.
Yeah,
everything happens. I mean,
now that you say that,
yeah. Well, I mean, I know everybody needs a main character, but I mean, if you're talking, and since the whole point is of spirals, is everything is centralized and then spirals out. She's the central that everything spirals out.
She goes to the hospital. Weird shit's happening at the hospital.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my theory.
I'm there now.
What if she is the spiral in disguise?
Yeah,
she's the Avatar.
That's
the last spiral.
That's how I read it.
Okay.
Honestly.
Gosh, Katara, I sure was pretty in my previous life.
Hef has won me over to his horror theory. We're gonna rip off game theory now. That'll be the new channel. Oh, our executive producer came to visit.
That's weird. He doesn't normally stop by the studio. That's why he's the executive producer.
I must be in trouble.
No. Okay, Suichi Sato, best boyfriend.
Best boyfriend.
I am not familiar with X-Files. The most I know about the X-Files is the Simpsons episode. So, Daniel, why don't you take us through this?
I called him Agent Mulder because the second anything even remotely strange starts to happen, he's like, aliens. Or Spiral, or Big... Like, Mulder would always go, oh, don't you know Bigfoot is known for being in this region, and he's been spotted, and he'll start listing off all these statistics.
Sounds like a guy I'd like.
And Kyrie's like Agent Scully. She's like, nah, fam, come on, stop that.
Sounds like somebody who would irritate me.
Yeah. But that's how...
Can't you just believe in magic?
Yeah, but the thing is Agent Mulder is always correct. It's always Bigfoot. It's always aliens. It's always the Spiral.
Didn't they revive that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that?
I didn't watch it. I'm so far behind in other things that I don't have time for every nostalgic piece that drops now.
Same.
Yeah.
He's the dumbest person in the book.
You think he's the dumbest person?
Yes.
Because he doesn't leave?
Because he won't leave. Like,
if Kyrie was my girlfriend, I wouldn't leave either.
Here's the thing. If we're going, again, I read it as Kyrie is kind of the central point.
Okay.
Okay, if she's the central point and he's just trying to get her to leave with him, he's the dumbest person because he just won't leave.
I didn't read it that way before, so I was just like, he's best boyfriend because he won't leave his hot girlfriend.
I think he's the dumbest person.
Even with your viewpoint, I'm still on hit. Like, if she were my girl, I wouldn't leave her. But I'm also the guy who defend in Star-Lord punching Thanos in the face. So
that is odd. That is hot. That's hot take there.
I also agree with that. I would have gotten just as mad.
Yeah. It's your woman's your life, man.
I feel that. I'm appreciating the fact that you said it, and other people are going to be like, oh, I can appreciate it.
I mean, if I was Star-Lord, I probably would have started shooting them. Because you have a gun, it's right there.
So Suichi is like your convenient piece of information in the story. Like, he's the one that's like saying this is all coming together and bringing you into the mystery.
Yeah.
But as far as like an actual character, I think he's the dumbest person because he knows what's happening. He actively says, this is what's happening. I know what's happening. I get Kyrie's pretty. I know she's a gem. But my guy, sometimes you just got to cut your losses and realize that you're going to love again.
I understand the logic of what you're saying.
but I've never gotten to date a Kyrie.
Yeah.
My only other point on the character is that the story implies that he's aware of everything because he goes to school outside of town.
Yeah.
So when he leaves and he comes back, he sees how strange everything is.
Yeah. It probably...
He's like, the whirlpools aren't like that in the lakes everywhere else.
The weird voodoo isn't affecting him 24/7 like it affects everybody else. Empirically, I think you're correct, Hef, but I'm a very emotional being.
I'm so emotional that I pre-ordered the Kyrie Nendoroid.
Yeah.
How much did you pay for that?
$50.
Ugh.
How big is it?
Isn't
Isn't it like this?
It's about the size of that with interchangeable heads in different poses and arms.
The only time you should ever pay that much money for something with interchangeable heads, it should be going in your ass.
Well, usually my girlfriends give me that for free. So
The ones with interchangeable heads are a lot more than $50.
Which is why you're getting a deal.
Yeah.
I have one that shoots fake cum. Wait, are we talking about dodos?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I have one that shoots fake cum.
Yeah. A shot.
You can order it from Bad Dragon, and you can warm it up. You put it in there.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe that'd be nice, but that's ooh.
Yeah, it shoots a lot though.
I don't want that.
It's like, have you ever seen like this over the top hentais? Is what it's like.
Yeah, I'm not about that.
Is it like a super soaker?
I mean,
just kind of do one of these?
I mean, it's like one big spurt. You can get ones that like will spurt again and again, but they're like super expensive,
more like
mechanical.
It's more like a syringe, like.
Yeah, it's like a turkey baster. Like if you pressed it really hard.
Here's how fucked up I am.
Okay.
So I just imagine that scene from A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about giving my shover my plumber's helper. I'll open up his mouth and I'll shove it in.
That's it.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
All right.
This was a gift. I didn't have to pay for this one.
It's good that it was a gift.
Yeah.
My father was an artist. And dildos were his tapestry. Were his medium.
Starry Night takes on a new meaning whenever you talk like that.
Starry night.
Which also
my
has spirals.
dildos blue
My
and
coworker
gray.
didn't believe they were real things, and then I showed them to her, so she bought me one as a present.
She didn't believe spirals were a real thing?
No, the dildos that shoot fake cum.
Oh.
Why
I've
would you not
seen some
believe that?
crazy ones.
Yeah, she's like, that's not a real thing. I was like, hold
they
on.
make ones this big.
Oh yeah, dragons, I believe is what those are called.
Yeah, Bad Dragon.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Sponsor us, Bad Dragon.
Sure.
That would be great.
Sure, why not? All right. The Spiral. Talk to us about why the Spiral is a character.
I can't say the name of the town. Kuru
So-
Zucho.
Kuro, which is
Kuro.
black.
Okay.
Kuro, Zucho.
Kuru Zucho. It's the ever-present force there. It's grand, eternal, ever-present, ultimately beyond the understanding of people. It is a Lovecraftian force. It is sort of written as a god that doesn't make any sense to people. We are not made in its image. It twists us into its image.
I've grown fond of, I don't want to say elevated horror, because that's not the right term. But horror that's like, you can't rationalize it.
A lot of people call that elevated horror.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Like we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
the older I get, the more fond of that I think I become, mainly just because, like, you're kind of, most horror is like you're grounded in something. Most people don't like something if they can't understand it.
Yeah.
If they can't understand it, they outright reject it most of the time. While I think is a shallow mentality, I understand why some people just don't like that.
It's natural.
If you can't comprehend it, you don't want to think about it. It's Lovecraftian in a sense. But I find that, like, the more I get into stuff like this, like I think that's why Uzumaki, like, really hit home for me this time around, because I went in being just like, I don't have to understand everything.
Yeah.
I just have to be along for the ride and be like, holy shit.
I think it invites you to not understand by the end of it too.
It's natural to dislike things that make you feel stupid.
Yeah.
But not everybody feels stupid by things that they don't understand. And context matters.
I think Junji Ito set up the story where you think you're going to get an answer at the end, but the answer he gives you is like, you're not going to get it anyway. Like, here's the answer, but you're not going to understand it.
It also doesn't matter why.
Yeah.
That's the big thing I think that people have a lot, like, whenever I, like, talk to people about stuff like this, they always ask me, why would that, or why, like, why is always the question.
Yeah.
When in instances like this, it's why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Why does it have to make sense? Why can't it just exist because it exists?
Or I can just write whatever I want, and if the story doesn't make logical sense, I'll just say it's Lovecraftian and use it as an excuse.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. That's how I write things. I'm like, I don't know how to explain this.
It's Lovecraftian. It's elevated horror. If you don't get it, you just, you're not. It's not your thing.
That's what I say when I see algebra.
I prefer to take the psychologist approach. I go, what do you think it means?
Yes. Turn it back on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
That's interesting.
Inevitably, when this podcast stops, it'll be because of that.
We fell into a Lovecraftian hole.
Kill you all! I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. Is this book scary?
Parts of it, I think, are scary. Parts of it freak me out.
I think it's more gross and shocking than scary.
I put myself in the perspective of a lot of the shit that happens to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the thought of me turning into a snail freaks me the fuck out.
It's too left field to really be scary for me.
Yeah.
It definitely is shocking and creepy and gross.
If body horror gets you, this will get you.
Body horror is not something that's typically super effective for me.
The idea of being unable to escape the town freaks me out.
The body horror that is effective for me is generally like the more realistic stuff, like being slashed in the face and
bear eating you alive.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely, yes. Bear eating my intestines as they spill, or like a plate of spaghetti on my stomach, and little bear cubs just
pulling them out.
Yeah. We
saw Cocaine Bear this week.
I want to go. I plan to go see it this weekend.
It's so good. It's so good.
I think that's the most fun we've had in a movie in a long time.
One of my coworkers went to see it, and they were really excited to come tell me about it because they said IKEA hef is in it. And I didn't know what he meant until he showed me a picture. The one paramedic guy.
Oh my god!
I mean, you guys have the same facial hair.
They called him IKEA hef.
I don't get the IKEA part.
He's apparently he's on Twitter. No, what's that thing? TikTok.
Okay.
He's on TikTok, and that's where he originally got his fame from. Was he was on TikTok,
and
cool. He did customer service for years, and he worked at an IKEA.
For IKEA. Oh, okay.
And it's basically he just introduces videos, just I'd like to speak with your manager, and then he just looks at the screen. I'd like to speak with your mother. And it's just so he calls him they call
IKEA
him IKEA hef.
Yeah, you guys do have the same facial hair and similar hair, so yeah, I get that. Oh, that doesn't go over well for IKEA hef. Maybe you shouldn't see this movie.
This is just a personal thing. The air raid sirens, those freak me out. I hate that sound so much.
That's a very cultural thing for Japan because of the constant fire
shows
bombings.
It shows up in so much. It's all over Silent Hill. It's in the game Siren.
Yeah, I mean not just the atomic bombs in World War II, but the fire bombs that we did. Not great.
Dragonfly Pond freaks me out, especially with the mud and the people's ashes falling into it. The idea of just people's remains being dumped into a little pond near my house, that freaks me out.
The thing that got me the hardest in all of these crazy, ridiculous things was the most real thing, was just seeing that kid's body rolled up.
Burst into flame?
No.
Oh, okay.
Rolled up in the tire inside under the car.
Jack in the Box.
That was the absolute worst.
Springs out of the coffin.
Yeah, nothing got me like that.
Okay, so which spiral curse do you think is the most effective?
Which spiral curse is the most effective?
Which one is the scariest?
The one that got me the most was, I think, Suichi's mom, where she just kept seeing the husband everywhere.
That's awesome.
Mental stuff fucks with me a lot. If it's one of those things where it can distort the way that your brain interprets just anything.
I work in a mental health hospital, and with patients like this, where we have to watch constantly.
When she picked up the scissors,
yeah,
and just went in her eardrum, I was like, nope.
We have someone on suicide watch, and I've seen some people try some horrible shit, and I relate to that one. Ryan, which is the least effective curse?
Either the hair or the snails.
F.
Hair.
You think the hair?
It's not debatable.
It's not scary. I mean, it's cool. Like I love
looks
that.
cool. I love the way
that
Carrie
chapter,
looks.
but
It's
not scary.
Other than the like the kids that like fly around.
Yeah.
It's the only one that just seems outwardly goofy.
Yeah.
I also like that it leads us to short hair Kyrie.
Yeah, no, I'm all about the short hair.
Yeah.
I prefer long hair Kyrie.
I'm a defender. Anytime like a famous woman cuts her hair short, like when Emma Watson did, I'm like, no, I'm all about it. Do it. When Penny on Big Bang cut her hair super short, I'm like, yes, more.
Ryan likes the short hair bitches.
More.
I like both.
Why are you not bald on top with a sliver in the front?
Kiss me, fat boy.
I included this quote.
The sensation of being inside his shell, chewing on the soft parts of his face, fitting your whole body in those wet, wonderful curves.
That quote's now on my Tinder profile.
The last 3 words by themselves get me going.
It's pretty gross.
The rest of it I can kind of deal without.
I mean, I like those 3 words separately. I'm not sure
wet
about
wonderful.
together.
Yeah, wet wonderful curves sound just fantastic to me. Realizing it's talking about a snail, however, less exciting.
And then you got the snakes and the snails. There's literally sex in the book.
Snakes. I don't remember the snakes.
The 2 couples see 2 snakes mating.
Oh yeah,
and then
that
when
was
they escape
cute.
into the ocean, they twist into each other.
I also thought that was cute.
Yeah,
like I was reading it, I'm just like,
oh,
look at
that's
them
nice.
go. Look at them go.
They kind of got. I mean, they died, but I mean, they're together.
They're together.
I like that.
They're mating like snakes.
Yeah.
And then the snails become.
It's when they became just heads that really kind of was like, oh no,
asexual, and the bully and the kid that he bullied have eggs together.
Yeah,
that was funny.
It's a happy ending.
That was funny.
It was a little strange, but as I reflect on it after reading it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I like it. In the moment, I was like, what? And then I'm like, oh yeah, no, I like it. I'm here for it.
I like his points of the later, in the third, the last part of the book, where I feel like even Junji Ito is sitting there just being like, oh, how do I make this weirder?
Yeah.
Like he almost he's just making shit up to try to make it weirder.
I think he was on Wikipedia looking up facts about snails.
I think he was on shrooms looking up facts about snails.
And I always just relate people being twisted together into being sexual because I'm a weirdo. I'm even wearing my Uzumaki shirt tonight of all these people in the house.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, that's like an orgy. It's great.
Ew.
$49.95.
And then you dump the body out once you're done with them because you're like, oh, that person can't go anymore.
Oh.
No, just me.
Gross.
Oh my God, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Daniel, you go first. This is your thing. What's your king?
My king is Kyrie. So I love everything about her.
I think my king is the relationship of it's Suichi and Kyrie. I think they are my king.
Power couple.
Yeah, power couple. Because I just kept expecting for him to become a jerk and just be like, "Fuck you, I'm leaving," and it just never happened. He just stuck with her through the whole book.
My next wedding cake toppers are going to be Suichi and Kyrie.
Sure they are.
My king is rereading it as Kyrie being the spiral. Changes a lot of the book.
And for Koontz,
not a lot of them. I think a lot of the short stories are effective, but some of the things that are intended is I think being scares fall a little flat. They're few and far between. Overall, I think this book is pretty effective at what it wants to do, which is tell a weird spiral story. I don't know. And I don't know off the top of my head. But it's
probably one you can't think of because it's forgettable.
Yeah. Honestly, the one you like the most is the one I think I like the least, is the Jack in the Box one. I keep forgetting that story's in there.
It's not my favorite.
Oh, okay, well.
It was
the most effective spiral.
Because the number one thing I'm afraid of is one of my kids getting hit by a car.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, seeing a child mangled under the tires of a car is going to be...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty horrific.
Yeah. I mean, Pet Sematary is the scariest book ever.
Yeah.
So...
I can't wait for us to cover that one coming up.
The worst one is the kids that fly around.
Oh, yeah. I'm changing my answer.
I love that he tries to defend it by being just like, it's a wind thing, and it makes the spiral, and it excels as like that, and I'm just like, no.
I don't think that's any more ridiculous than people turning into snails.
I just didn't. Of all the body horror and the themes in it, I just think it was just the most over the top and unnecessary.
Yeah.
At least with snails, we get wet, wonderful curves.
Also, the kids just being like blatantly insane. We just want to make wind.
The hospital one, I guess, was kind of disappointing because I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it ended up being.
Yeah.
I thought that when it cut to like the pregnant belly, I thought it was going to burst and the bugs were going to come out of it.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
And then that didn't happen.
A bunch of mosquitoes just burst out of a pregnant woman.
That's my Koontz is the mosquito pregnant woman.
We should steal that.
Yeah.
It was when he was listening to Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds. It's about LSD. No, man, it's a coincidence.
So it's about a woman giving birth to mosquitoes.
Okay, ranking, and I have our comics and manga up. Daniel?
It's my number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uzumaki, so that knocks Domu down to your number 2, and the Enigma of Armagara Fault down to your number 3. Uzumaki's your new number 1. Mr. Hef.
I struggled with this a lot.
I could tell.
Yeah, me too.
I did. I legit struggled with this.
Me too.
I think it's my number 1 too. It's not decisive, and on a different day I could see myself saying the opposite, but
I can see how much it hurt you.
Yeah, I really like Rumiko Takahashi stuff. I really like Mermaid Saga.
I also
really like Mermaid Saga, so that was tough.
I really struggled with this. Again, you can see our lists if you go to our Discord, which there should be a link to our Discord in the show notes now. I'm including that in the show notes, and our Facebook group. But if you go to our Discord and you click on rankings, that'll take you to a Google document that has all of our rankings, so you can go and see what we're talking about. And I'll just go ahead and say our top 3s prior to ranking these. Mine was The Enigma of Amagara Fault, Mermaid Saga, and Domu. Daniel's was Domu, The Enigma of Amagara Fault, and Gyo. And Hef's was Mermaid Saga, The Enigma of Amagara Fault, and Gyo. Okay, so just like 4 different ones. For me, I really struggled with where to put it, and it could be different on a different day, but right now I'm going to put it at number 2, and that's only because I read The Enigma of Amagara Fault when I was young, and it scared me, and that it has stuck with me for literally a decade and a half and still scares me to this day.
Yeah.
I'm going to rank it above Uzumaki because of that, but I would not be surprised if after a reread of Uzumaki, that changes in Uzumaki. I put it number 1.
That's fair.
Homework. What's your spiral curse?
Being stuck in a whirlpool forever. Because one of my biggest fears, probably the biggest fear I have, is drowning. And the whirlpool would just keep going forever and ever and ever, but I would never drown.
Oh God, that's pretty bad.
Do you get nauseous and throw up?
No, I would just be in a constant state of not being able to breathe while the whirlpool is happening.
That sounds bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Ryan,
so I live in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah,
and my sister tells me that I can't remember. Is northern hemisphere everything goes clockwise, and southern hemisphere everything is counterclockwise, like flushing?
Maybe.
It's either that or the reverse. But my sister tells me that if you're in the northern hemisphere, everything will flush clockwise, and if you're in the southern hemisphere, everything will flush counterclockwise. And I tell her she's full of shit. And I go through, like, every drain in our house, and everything is clockwise. I'm like, shit, why does she have to be right about everything? And she's like, well, maybe she's lying about the southern hemisphere. Maybe it's clockwise everywhere. So I have to go to the southern hemisphere to figure out if toilets flush counterclockwise. FYI, this is a premise of a Simpsons episode. So I go to Japan, and I go to this tiny little town because it was cheaper than going to Tokyo.
Okay.
And I find a toilet, and I flush it. And I've been holding peace since I got off the plane in Tokyo, because I don't want to know until I get to this tiny little village. And it flushes counterclockwise. And my anger is so immense that I channel it into the toilet. And the spiral from the flush reaches out and consumes me. And I become a toilet flush spiral. And I travel throughout the pipes and sewers of the town, grabbing other people by the penises as they flush and yanking them down into the spiral sewers.
I like it.
I have only one question. Why did you go to test a southern hemisphere thing in Tokyo? Because isn't Japan in the northern hemisphere?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong about many things before.
Northern hemisphere, like northern southern hemisphere, are at the equator.
Yeah.
Japan is. I don't think Japan's in the southern equator.
We need one with the equator. It's right by the line.
Japan's up there. It's up there.
Okay.
That's why your sister's right. You went to the wrong place.
You know what? I'm sorry, Hef. Sometimes you have to have willing suspension of disbelief in order to entertain people.
I mean, that's penis grabbing flush monster is still pretty good. I'll give you that.
I still like his story the best so far.
Oh yeah,
because mine sucks in comparison to both of yours. I just listened to that song that goes, "You spin me right round, baby, right round,"
like a record, baby, round.
And then the song never stops in my head, and then I have to kill myself to get it to stop.
Just like that episode of Walking Dead. I came up with all that on the spot. I didn't think about it at all.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I like that story.
You can tell when he does because he has hand gestures. Whenever he starts coming up stuff off the hand, he just starts throwing his hands.
All I knew is like it was going to have something to do with toilet flushing. That's as much thought as I put into it. A question for the listeners: would you eat a slug person? If you,
yes.
I don't know because I don't want to presume what I would do in a life or death situation.
I would eat a person if I was just mildly hungry and didn't think I was going to get any food.
Sure.
I think I would take the same stance of, like as far as desperation is concerned. I've had escargot before, and I like to think that in this particular scenario where I have to be concerned about whether a person is or is not a slug, I have been in the town long enough that I've now deemed them as no longer a person, so I will eat said slug.
Okay.
I don't know what I would do.
I'm just not that strong.
Okay, Daniel, what do you have for further reading?
The works of Junji Ito. If you like this, you're probably going to like the other stuff he's written.
I don't know why. Everything else except for Enigma of Amagar Fault is significantly worse.
That's not incorrect.
That is true. After this, there are some things I still haven't read, but this is like his, at least in my opinion, like his magnum opus.
I mean, Yo is good, but it's like 5 steps below this.
Yeah. Works of H.P. Lovecraft. If you like that Lovecraftian, I don't have to explain it stuff. Or people being turned into weird shit because of a curse, because he does that a lot. And the game Forbidden Siren is strangely similar to this. It all takes place in a small Japanese town, and weird shit starts happening to people. And there's the siren air raids and weird gods, and they're like, we don't have to explain shit to you in this game.
And before we wrap up, I'm going to give you guys your next pre-show mission for when the 3 of us are here.
Okay.
And I'm telling you now, Hef.
Okay.
It's on record.
It makes me sound like I don't ever do anything outside of here.
I know, but that's canon now.
I mean, you did show up for your very first episode not having read the book. So.
I didn't know we had a drive.
I love you, Hef. I love you more than anyone.
And just so you know, our pre-shows, we do record those, and they are released to our patrons at the $5 and up level. So if you're interested, check it out. And if you want, do once $5, listen to them all, or download them all and then cancel. I don't care. That's fine. Whatever you want to do.
$5 is $5.
So for next time the three of us are here, top 5 horror subgenres, be it body horror, cosmic horror, creature features, animal attacks, slasher, Japanese ghosts, whatever. Be dark fantasy. You can be as loosey-goosey with it as you want, and provide 2 examples of it. So if you say, oh, my number 1 is slasher, and my 2 examples are Freddy and Jason or whatever, just 2 examples.
Yes, sir. Wrote it down.
And it can be movies, games, books, whatever. Across any medium.
5 subgenres with a total of 10 examples, 2 for each one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not bad.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot recently.
I'm still waiting on the day where I can just be like randomly in a podcast and be like, hey guys, guess what? Top 5.
I've been waiting for you to do it.
I don't know why you haven't.
Because I haven't thought of
do it right now.
I haven't thought of a good one yet.
Do the first thing that comes to mind.
5 horror. Nope, I didn't. I don't. I can't do this yet. I can't do this yet because I haven't done.
You know what you're doing right now?
Performance anxiety.
You'll put the on a pedestal.
I know that's a reference. Is that Wolf of Wall Street?
What?
Sounds like Wolf of Wall Street.
This is 40-year-old virgin.
Oh. I was thinking of Margot Robbie where she's just doing this.
I have not seen that movie.
It's a long movie.
Yeah,
it's a long movie.
It's not on my list.
It's like 3 hours. It's so long.
I'm good.
I'd rather just watch the 40-year-old version.
Just watch the scene.
You could watch the 40-year-old version twice.
Just watch the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio takes the pill that makes his body just like a limp noodle, and he's trying to get to his Lamborghini. It's it's one of the funnier things you'll see in a while.
Okay, I'll YouTube that at some point. All right.
Yeah, it's great.
And I recommend the 40-year-old virgin if you haven't seen it. All right. Thanks everybody for reading Uzumaki and recording tonight.
Oh, well, always a pleasure.
And of course, thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron.
And for Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can find them at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, or the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I did get an update from the FBI. Those meetings that they are having in the back room have been stopped. So you can continue to frequent there and not worry about where your money is going behind the scenes. So that is good. All right, thank you everybody for listening. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
Stay scary, folks.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow Daniel at DStarSick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Damio on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.